You like watching people get fucked for free?
Now that I have your attention, let's talk about Israel Adesanya and his fight this past weekend. Against Cannonier, I was there, live, ready to witness something special. Adesanya walked out to the Undertaker's theme song. Hold on, let me get my chain out. He walked out to the Undertaker's theme song. Very iconic. Very something you could only feel the atmosphere in if you're there. You could feel the energy. You could feel the tension. You could feel the intensity in the room thicken the moment that song hit the speakers. And I thought, whoa, we're in for a treat. This entire fight buildup, Israel Adesanya said, oh, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going back to my old ways. I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to knock him out. But like the title of this video is, what this entire video predicates on is Israel Adesanya boring? Now, before I get crucified, think about it. That's a rhetorical question, but think about it. Is he boring? Is he getting boring? You can say yes, or you can say no. Let's go back a bit. Now, what I realized, and it kind of baffled me once I realized, is that Israel Adesanya hasn't had a win in 2 years since he defeated Paulo Livin La Vida Costa in September of 2020, Fight Island. It was probably the biggest, most highly anticipated fight in the pandemic era because we all thought, all right, Israel Adesanya is finally going to get a test because his last fight before the Costa fight was against Yoel Romero, and it was one of the worst title fights in UFC history. So we all thought, all right, we're going to get something spectacular. And what do we get? We got a finish on Israel Adesanya's side. And all of us were like, wow, he redeemed himself. That is the Israel Adesanya we know and love. That is the guy. That is the guy that is viral on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, YouTube. That's the guy. And he hasn't had a finish since then. And it puzzles me because I feel like he could have gotten a finish in all of his past fights. He fought Jan Blachowicz to try and get his champ status, become one of the greatest fighters ever. That didn't happen. It happened to be another one of the worst fights ever. One of the worst title fights. It wasn't that good. It was a high intense chess match for sure, but it just wasn't that good. Then he fought Marvin the Mongoose, Marvin Vettori, UFC 263, June 2021. That fight was entertaining. Vettori definitely won some rounds, but Adesanya landed up winning the fight. Adesanya could have finished him, but he played it safe. He played it as if, oh, if I go for the kill, I could get taken down and I could get, my belt taken away via decision. So he fought smart and he fought a little bit, not accustomed to what we were seeing. Fast forward or flash rewind to this past February when he had the rematch with Robert Whittaker. I thought Israel Adesanya was going to knock Robert Whittaker out again. I thought, what can Robert Whittaker do differently? He can't charge in on him like he did in the first fight because he's just going to get knocked out. So what can he do differently? If he stays on the outside, Israel's just going to pick him apart, and that's what he did. But in the first round, my prediction almost came true as Israel literally almost got a first-round TKO. He dropped Robert, and Robert kind of took the fight to him for the latter part of the fight. But again, with him rocking Robert Whittaker, I felt he could have finished the fight. But he played it safe. And I get it. I do. I get you're fighting for not only your fighting life, you're fighting for your life. You're fighting for something bigger than you. You're fighting for your family. You're fighting for your friends. You're fighting to keep that expensive house. You're fighting to keep that house that you built so bad for your mom. You're fighting for everything you've worked for. You don't want to get it taken away. Now, this past weekend's fight. He promised, Israel did, like I said, a knockout. He gave us something less than that. And me included, along with everyone else in the MMA world, thought that Cannonier would give Israel Adesanya the fight that we thought Paulo Costa would give Adesanya, because Cannonier don't give no fucks. This guy's going to go out there. He's going to push the pace. He's going to take you down. He's going to push you up against the fence, and he's going to land those bombs on you because he has power. Let's not forget Cannonier came from heavyweight. So he carried his power all the way to middleweight, knocking out Derek Brunson, dropping Jack Hermanson. Dropping Kelvin Gastelum, one of the toughest guys in the middleweight division. This guy definitely proved he was worthy of a title shot. But it almost seemed as if when Jared got in and with the spectacle and the lights and the Undertaker walkout, it seemed as if Jared was a little dwarfed by the moment. Everyone was imploring both fighters to do something. That's not a secret. But Israel was fighting his fight. People are blaming Israel Adesanya. I get why. You make all these promises. You say you're going to knock this guy out, and you don't. You bomb, literally. Bomb inside that octagon. You lay a turd inside that octagon. You even have Chris Pratt talking shit about you, saying that I'm not a fan. I don't like the way he fights. I don't like how he doesn't deliver on his promises. So Israel's getting a lot of hate, and I can see why. But you also got to put the blame on Jared Cannonier. Sure, he doesn't want to be put on a highlight reel knockout. Sure, he doesn't want to be made a meme on TikTok or Instagram. I get all that. But this is Jared Cannonier's one shot at the title. He probably will not get another one. He's up there in age. He already was in somewhat of a title eliminator fight against Robert Whittaker. This is it for him. He's done after this. Maybe he could get a title shot if he goes up to light heavyweight. But other than that, I don't see this guy getting another crack at the title. With that being said, I know it's easier said than done, but you got to go balls to the wall. I mean, knowing you're down at least 2 rounds, you got to start pushing the pace. You got to start taking the fight to Israel. You got to start getting dirty because that's the only way you're going to win. I said last week in my prediction for this fight, if you watched, if you didn't, you're out of your mind. I pulled for Jared Cannonier to pull off the upset, but he needed to take notes from the past few fights that Israel had. He needed to take notes from the Jan fight. He needed to take notes from the Jared Cannonier fight. The Robert Whittaker fight. And he needed to take notes from the Marvin Vettori fight. He needed to use pressure. The reason why Kelvin Gastelum had so much success on Israel is because he had pressure. He pressured Israel a lot in that fight, and he had success. He's the only one to truly hurt Israel in the octagon. Jan beat him, but he didn't hurt him. Kelvin had a lot of success with his pressure. I know Robert tried that same thing, but Robert tried it in a different way. Had he just go balls to the wall, Jared Cannonier, he should have just really, man, I'm trying to say this nicely. Like, I don't care what people say, but I'm just trying to put this in the nicest way possible. Had he went balls to the wall, we probably would have gotten a better fight. And we probably would have gotten a new champion. Let's not forget, he landed a big overhand right in the clinch. And I thought, oh, the tide may be beginning to turn. But it didn't. If he would have just fought his ass off, balls to the wall, and say he got knocked out in round 3. Say he got knocked out cold in round 3. But he fought his ass off, making it a competitive fight until then. He'd have no regrets. He'd be like, I got caught. It's the name of the game. But I have no regrets. I fought my ass off. No one's going to take that away from you. In fact, people wouldn't be talking so much shit about you had that happen. I guarantee you Jared Cannonier is sitting at home watching that fight going, oh man, I could have done something right there. Or, ooh, I could have taken him down right there. Or, ooh, I could have landed this combination right there. That is the worst thing that can happen not only to a professional fighter, but to any athlete at any level. It's just that simple. Let's go back to Israel now. Again, like I said, I understand why he's getting a ton of hate. When you look at the grand scheme of things, like I said, Israel is a star. But there is a huge difference between a superstar and a star. You'll see Israel probably on an Elk Boys podcast, or you'll see Israel going viral on YouTube or Twitter, trending on Twitter. You'll see all that. But the reason why Conor McGregor is the biggest star in all of combat sports is for 2 reasons. 1, he always does what he says. And 2, his fights are wildly entertaining. That is one fighter, and I'm not saying this because I'm the biggest Conor McGregor fan ever. It is just a fact. Every single fight that Conor has been in has been exciting as shit. He has never been in a boring fight. I was there live. By round 3, people were leaving. People were so unimpressed with this fight. And people are going to be like, oh, nothing, this isn't going to bother Israel. It does. That's why he's backlashing at Chris Pratt. That's why he's digging at the media. That's why he's digging at the fans, because this bothers him. When you have people leaving the fight by round 3, you know your fight sucked. With Conor McGregor, he has never had a dud. You never heard anyone boo at his fights unless it's something he said. You never have people leaving by round 3. No. When you go to a Conor McGregor fight, or when you watch a Conor McGregor fight at home, you watch from the prelims to the end, because it's just that entertaining. He brings a different atmosphere. He brings a different excitement to that card that he's on. Israel Adesanya don't do that. I was kind of bummed when this fight was announced, because I'm like, oh, well, looks like we're going to another decision. I knew it right away. The reason why I'm bringing this comparison to you is because Conor McGregor is the type of guy that leaves it all on the line. He either goes, knocks people out, or dies trying. He either gets knocked out. No matter what, though, you're going to leave satisfied knowing that you just witnessed a really good fight. With Israel, you can't say the same. Hasn't had a finish since 2020. You cannot say the same about that. He is almost like the Floyd Mayweather of MMA now. Remember when Floyd was in that era when he was making all the money in the world, fighting the top contenders, fighting the best guys, but every fight seemed to be a dud, and we used to call Floyd Mayweather a runner, a ducker, a dancer. It's kind of what Israel Adesanya is going through right now. But I also think that it predicates on him hyping himself up. Had he not said any of that in the pre-fight buildup, we wouldn't have batted an eye. If he would have been like, I'm going to beat Jared Cannonier. I'm not going to say how. I'm just going to beat him. We wouldn't be booing him. Sure, we might boo him. Some might boo him, but we wouldn't have had the high expectations that we had after Israel said, I'm knocking out Jared Cannonier. When you have that cool of a walkout and you have that piss poor of a performance, you're going to get crucified by the media. You're going to get crucified by your peers. You're going to get crucified by casual fans. The MMA audience is not honest enough. Israel Adesanya put on a good performance, but it wasn't spectacular. No one's honest in the MMA world. And that's what's sad. And that's what's frustrating to me. And that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. But again, you can't put all the blame on Israel. It goes both ways. You got to put some of the blame on Jared, knowing that this could possibly be his only chance at winning a title. And what did he do? He didn't do anything either. So I get it. I really do. Is he boring? You know, his next fight's going to be a big one. He seems to have a fire lit under his ass now more than ever. He took literally no damage in that fight, so maybe we can see that fight pretty soon between him and Alex Pieta. So, you know, it's tough, but I'd have to say he is getting a little bit boring. I hate to say that, and I wish it wasn't the truth. But man, like I said, the reason Conor McGregor is the biggest star in combat sports is because of his fights, because he puts it on the line every time he steps in there. Israel don't do that. Even a decision fight, the 2 decision fights that Conor McGregor had, one of them is considered the greatest fight in UFC history. That was the second fight against Nate Diaz. One decision that Israel had against Kelvin Gastelum is considered one of the greatest middleweight fights of all time, if not one of the greatest fights of all time. That's what happens when you put it out on the line. You gain fans. When you fight piss poor, you're going to win. I know at the end of the day it's all about winning, but I'm just saying, you're not going to gain fans if you fight this Mayweather type of style, and that's basically what he's becoming. I hope this next fight really shuts me up because, like I said, I'm ready to see if he could silence all the doubters. I'm not a doubter. I'm a huge fan of Israel's, and it pains me to make this video, but I just got to tell the truth.
Yo, it's Mickey Gall. Make sure you subscribe to my boys' podcast and YouTube channel. Keep it 100 podcast.